Hi, thanks for joining me. I hope that you appreciate the slightly wider angle here. I was starting to wonder if maybe, I zoomed in on my big head a little bit too much. So today we're going to be doing an anime I watched video. Enjoying doing that as usual, and I think I watched some really interesting stuff this time. Additionally, my anime backlog is getting really short. I'm quite happy with this development. In fact, I think out of the things that were originally on the list, like not new things that I've added since I started working on my backlog, there may only be like 5 things left. Granted, all of those are like big collections of stuff that are going to take me a long time to watch, but at any rate, I think I'm down to about 25 items on that list from about like close to 100. So let's take a look at 4 of those here today. For starters, I watched Godannar here. I don't know what the right way is for that. It's completely upside down. There we go. This is a giant robot show, and as you can tell here, there is, this sort of comic booky art box here. There's a bit of a emphasis on fan service. For all of that, though, I think that's more of a hook. The show itself is, it's a little hard to describe. It was actually kind of weird. There is a little comedy to it, but I think the fan servicey stuff is kind of just in there to maybe to offset the fact that it's it's a little soap opera-y. And it's just, a giant, semi-serious, like, action-oriented giant robot show, with a lot of, like, kind of personal drama of the characters' love lives. And, like, it's not completely out of control, but, it's interesting. It starts off with the marriage of, 2 characters, this kind of ex-robot pilot, and this girl that he saved when they had this big war, I think it was 5 years previous, against these, like, monsters, sort of aliens that ended up, breeding all over the planet. Actually, the plot reminds me very much of a more recent anime, Nobunaga, which I liked quite a bit. I actually still haven't finished watching that one, so I'll have to keep going with that a bit. But, it's kind of similar in premise to Nobunaga, but a little bit more of the focus is on, like, the 2 main characters kind of, wrangling with married life and kind of what that means to, Go is the main guy character. Him as, basically starting to become a robot pilot again, and, his new wife, am I going to remember what her name is? I'm not. I don't know why. Anyway, whomever that girl is, she, her just kind of being a new wife, and, she's young, she's actually, like, still in high school. He's sort of robbing the cradle here just a little bit, and her mom actually is his boss. It's interesting, and you get all these other characters coming in that maybe some of them liked him previously, or some of them are in love with each other, and it's enjoyable. I liked it. Honestly, though, I think the emotions that it dealt with were kind of down in tone. And it also didn't really deal with them in a way that I thought was easy to digest. Like, the show was well animated. It seems like it was worked on by AIC. And I don't know... I guess I almost get the impression that it may have been an original work by AIC. I don't know why I feel that way, and maybe I'll just research and I'll put a notation if there's, any more information about that. But, suffice to say, if you've seen robot shows before, I mean, it has little elements of Evangelion to it. Unlike... what was that show? Parallel Duel, which was also by AIC and also had hints of Evangelion. The hints in here, I think they're really more homages and not just straight ripping off the show like Duel did. It was much less annoying to me, especially because this seemed to have like new things to bring to the table. Like it had its own personality. It really had its own direction. So things that reminded me of Eva a lot though were the music and the launching scenes. So a lot of the launching scenes and the people working on the mechs and things like that, and there was even I think a scene in there that was definitely a little homage to Eva, but it worked in this. That it wasn't distracting and it wasn't annoying. So yeah, by the time I got to the end of the series, I definitely enjoyed it. I think at some point it did hook me, and I was on board. The ending itself, I'm just trying to think. I think it was kind of sweet, too. I think it was sort of nice. And, overall I liked it. I think along the way in the ride, it was a little more of a downer than I was hoping it would be. I guess it would have been almost nice if it were, just a little more lighthearted and a little more funny and stuff, than I was expecting. And there was more drama to it, I guess. That said, it really is balanced out pretty well with, a bunch of action and there's a lot of jiggling, basically. The fan service, it's interesting, actually. The characters tend to be, covered. It's not, necessarily showing a lot of skin, although there is some necessary cleavage. But there's a lot of TNA, a lot of, bouncing and stuff. They do it in kind of, it's maybe a semi-tasteful way. It's kind of entertaining. It was a pretty good show. I would give this a thumbs up, I guess. Definitely had a couple issues with it, but I liked it. So, Godannar. Next thing here, I'm doing, it seems like this is 3 of these are box sets from, I would say, around the same time. I mean, this is probably circa 2003 or so. These are, again, what I would call really, sort of bubble, anime bubble, period, anime boom. This next one is very interesting. This is from Tokyo Pop, and I'm not even sure if I have any of their other releases. Oh, this was a little older. This was actually right in the late 90s. I mean, only by a handful of years, but I think it does matter. Vampire Princess Miyu. This is the TV series. If you guys watch my other anime videos, you may know that I am a fan of the OAV or OVA series for this. Vampire Princess Miyu is really cool. One of the things I like the most about it is the music. Kenji Kawai does an amazing soundtrack for Vampire Princess Miyu. Just as far as anime soundtracks go, it's one of the few ones that I went out of my way to, get on CD. At one point, I used to listen to it a lot, and it's extremely good. Another thing that I like about this, and so I guess putting the OAV aside, the TV series, my initial exposure to this, interestingly enough, was, I guess this is circa about 1999, 1998. I went down to Animazement. I think it was Animazement 99. That is in North Carolina, South Carolina, one of the Carolinas, and it was a hike for me from the Northeast, and but it was fun. I got to actually have Yu Watase sign one of my copies of my Fushigi Yugi manga in Japanese. That was pretty cool. And yeah, I don't know, it was fun. So anyway, one of the things I got to do there was watch 1 or 2 episodes of Vampire Princess Miyu TV. I had not seen it, and I remember my impression. Maybe it was my age or just something about it bugged me. Maybe because I liked the OAVs so much, where I'm just like, oh man, they're making a TV series out of it and they're gonna ruin it, I was annoyed. She does have this little sidekick character that's kind of this, I don't know if there's a picture maybe on one of these discs here. Maybe I'll look out. Nope. She has this little sidekick character, and it's one of those things that's sort of annoying. Where I'm like, oh man, do I have to add a cute sidekick to every show? No, of course there's no pictures of it at all. So anyway, but watching this now, was really good. I really liked this. It actually still has a soundtrack by Kenji Kawai, and it's wonderful. The really cool thing about this set, and this is my friend's set I ended up buying from him, God bless him for just being into, buying this stuff back when it was new. And this does come with a soundtrack. I haven't listened to this yet. I'm really excited about checking it out. Still Kenji Kawai, and I really enjoyed it while I was watching the TV series. Now, as far as the content of this, it's a vampire story. Miyu, I guess I don't... They delve into backstory of her and Larva and in this, which is cool because those characters, they didn't really get fleshed out much in the OAVs. The OAVs were kind of set from the perspective of a paranormal investigator who was kind of on the trail of strange happenings and just sort of kind of happened to encounter Miyu repeatedly. You kind of get caught up. Each episode is like kind of a case where, some weird paranormal thing happens and Miyu happens to be involved. Now, the TV series takes a similar structure, but you're not ever viewing it kind of from the perspective of an outsider, which I kind of missed. Actually, I really liked that, and I was hoping they might incorporate that character into the TV series a little bit, but they didn't. I actually kind of like the direction they went with it, though. It's sort of from Miyu's perspective, and she, for whatever reason, takes some time, while living kind of hanging out in Tokyo, to start going to school and hanging out with this group of girls. So you sort of have this recurring thing where it's still a thing. Miyu is essentially it's pretty typical in terms of the vampire setup. It's kind of like Blade. She's one of those a little bit sympathetic to humans vampire that is policing other, Shinma, basically, is what they're called in this, but they're other, supernatural beings, and mostly what she does is she kind of kills them to send them back to the darkness, back to to get them out of the human world, mostly if they're misbehaving. And they set up kind of this foil for her, this other character that they introduce, who is a little bit annoying, just because they kind of get you to dislike her through the course of the series, but she's an interesting character too, and I kind of like what they did with the backstory, and her companion, Larva or Lava, as they transliterate him in the first disc, and not the rest of them, very interestingly, is he's another Shinma that kind of serves her, and they have this kind of, it's just this interesting relationship, but they just seem, they're almost like lovers, they're almost kind of a protector and protected. I don't, they have this interesting thing, but it's, they're also, they play them up as these really supernatural beings, things that we just wouldn't completely understand, and that they really are separate from humans, and they're kind of dispassionate. My one complaint with the series is, well, I guess two complaints. One is that because of that dynamic, I think the characters do come off written a little inconsistently. You have Miyu in certain episodes being well, that's just how it goes, and I'm not here to protect humans, and other times when you can tell that her sympathies are really stirred, and she seems to really act contrarily to that, almost like you should be expecting that, but then you're well, it kind of contradicts itself, and I think that probably the fundamental issue is, it does seem like there were different writers for different episodes, and the consistency and the quality of the writing, I think, really varies. For the most part, it's quite good. I would say there's maybe a couple episodes in there that are just kind of eh. But they're all pretty interesting, and they're all horror stories. So they do have that real. A lot of times they're downer endings. Everybody dies. It's the worst possible outcome happens, and just some of that stuff. But normally it's just told in such an interesting you know, it's just sort of like this sense of melancholy and this and beauty too. You know, I just think in terms of the characters and the music and everything, the settings. You know, it has this really Japanese yokai kind of feeling to it, and it's really quite nice. I highly recommend this series. Just, you know, keep in mind that I do think the characters contradict each other, you know, through the course of the series a little bit, and yeah, you know, I guess that's my biggest complaint. The writing is a little inconsistent, but definitely really liked Vampire Princess Miyu. I'm so glad I watched it after all these years here. I'm not going to try to put those back in there. Next up is something that I ordered. I kind of forget if I got to show this off in the pickups. I don't think I did, so I'm going to spoil two pickups here because I watched them as soon as I got them. Princess Minerva. Now, this is a classic that I saw very early when I first started watching anime. This is, you know, within one of the handful of probably 10 things that I had ever seen when I first started watching, and you know, it is 1995, so that's the time period, and this is great. It's basically in the same vein as Dragon Half. It's short, kind of like that. This is only 50 minutes. So I get, you know, probably about the exact same length as Dragon Half. It's not quite as amazing and goofy and funny as that. That Dragon Half holds up really well today. This doesn't hold up quite as well, but I think at the time it was very fun. You know, this is just a classic example of one of those OAVs that was, it was just made for, you know, people that were into this stuff back then, and it came across, I think, very well at the time, that you just had this cast of characters. You know, you had these female characters that were kind of, you know, there was a little bit of like that scantily cladness and, you know, a bath scene and stuff like that. I guess the fan service of the time, but also, you know, it's a funny story. You have pretty much this selfish princess who's just, you know, the gag is just that she's so selfish, and she doesn't consider, you know, the needs of other people, and she has this like outlandish, outgoing personality. You know, some of the comedy, I think, just sort of rides on that. But also this other cast of characters that is introduced, and you know, they all also have kind of strong personalities, and you know, their interactions are short. You only have 50 minutes to really, you know, explore that, but they're fun, and you know, it's just supposed to be one of those goofy shows that you're like, oh, like all the goofy stuff's happening. You know, in the end, I would say, you know, again, it reminds me of stuff like Slayers from the exact same time period. Even a little bit like what's another kind of sword and sorcery comedy, like Famine Eerie, sort of. I would say it hangs out right around the level of all that stuff. I might say that some of those things are like, they're at least more well remembered by me, and I think they hold up better now than this did. But I think at the time, if you know, when this was made, I think it at the time it stood up with any of those series as, you know, as good. It's definitely a very cute, fun, just, you know, short adventure in goofy, like, fantasy comedy. So if you like that kind of thing, I would highly recommend Princess Minerva. You know, don't get your expectations up too much, but if you appreciate it for what it is, I think it's a lot of fun. Finally, is something that it was interesting. I wanted to watch something, and I put in Tenchi Universe. I started watching that, and I just couldn't really get into it. I've been watching some Princess Tutu, and I'm struggling with that too. And I'm just like, you know what? What do I want to watch right now? What, you know, is there something that I would just enjoy more than this? So I threw this in just to try it out, and I loved it. I liked it way more than I was expecting to. That is Boys B. This is it's based on a manga that I've never heard. Well, I can't say I've never heard of it. This I've heard of. I've encountered most in the context of a PlayStation 1 game that is based on. I don't know if it's based on the anime or the manga or what. I'm pretty interested in playing it. In fact, especially more so now that I've watched this. This is a RightStuf release. And you'll know it's on their Nozomi brand. That I am pretty partial to their stuff. I think that they usually pick pretty interesting things. It comes with this book, which I think is kind of cool. What I really like about this the most is, it has the characters, but it also has little bios of the voice talent in it. But it has these little interviews, little director's comments, and it's a real production diary kind of a thing. And what's cool about this is it enhanced my enjoyment of the show. If an extra can do that, it's really doing its job. My takeaway from it, and it was echoed in what's written in here, is that this is a little bit more like one of those shows that, at a certain point, things like this, the whole OAV phenomenon, created these little, segments of the market that, kind of a really rabid following of, anime fans. But previous to that, a lot of stuff, it was really made more for television and more for mass consumption. And, the stories, I guess, I would say tended to be a little more relatable kind of to, normal people. And, people that aren't fanatics of this. And normally I would say that that's not necessarily a positive. I think what we see in video gaming with, AAA games, it's kind of something that I think is too bad with a lot of those things. I think it's taking away from my enjoyment of some of those. But contrary, this is more it's just sort of a return to form where I'm like, oh, this is one of these things where it's not really fan servicey. Well, sorry, it's hard to say that. It feels different. And so it's essentially each episode is sort of its own vignette of a little tale of high school romance amongst this cast of a set cast of characters, and a lot of characters that also sort of just appear for one episode. So for instance, let's see, oh goodness, I think this character and this character and this character all kind of recur. They're all sort of friends, and they go to the same school as these characters, who also, these main male characters, are kind of recurring characters that a lot of the romance revolves around. And I believe this girl goes to their school. She doesn't. I don't think she does. So all the rest of these characters, I think, probably don't. But so you kind of follow the school life of this cast of maybe what was it, 6 characters or so, 6 or 7 that I highlighted, and their various interactions, and it's right off the bat, it does feel a little bit like one of those, I don't know, I almost want to call it a kind of a sleazy romantic comedy or something. It's not really like that, but you're just oh, it's guys leering at girls, and the eye catches on the episodes are literally live action, pans of, they don't even show their faces, just women's swimsuit bodies, it's TNA, it's a little weird, but the writing and the stories are so, they're so charming, and they're interesting. I really enjoyed them. And I just think that they have some feeling to them and some authenticity to them. I just really liked it. They were mostly very uplifting, and just kind of or they felt a little realistic. It seemed like they really put some effort into writing this in such a way. In that book, the director mentions that they, I guess in addition to writing it for more of a general audience, they also were trying to, they either had to go one way or the other. They had to make it serious or they had to make it funny, because they said it. Historically, like series that had tried to do both failed. So they didn't make this a comedy. So it's more serious, and I think it works extremely well. The one issue that I have with it is towards the end. I guess just the end. The last like 2 episodes, I feel like are a culmination of one of the male characters in particular's sort of story arcs. And to me, it just wasn't as satisfying as I was hoping. I feel like I'm spoiling a little bit, but I was hoping it would end on more of an up note. It wasn't bad. That was disappointing for me. But so many of the episodes do kind of end on up notes, and it's just fun. If you're looking for something that's a little more serious. Kind of romantic story. It's not like a shoujo thing or something like that. It is kind of a, like aimed at boys, like a shonen type of story. But I really enjoyed this, and I thought it was great. So I would recommend that you guys check it out. I've managed to talk for 26 minutes here again, so I will cut this off here. But thanks for joining me. I hope that you enjoyed hearing about these anime series, and please join me again for more video game and anime-related videos. Thanks for watching.